Open with a bold, unsettling question: what if one man's twisted crimes became the blueprint for every horror movie you've ever seen? Tease Charlie Hunnam's shocking transformation and Netflix's gamble on the darkest season yet. When the first images of Charlie Hunnam as Ed Gein hit the internet, fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. Gone was the rugged biker heartthrob from Sons of Anarchy. In his place was a hollow-eyed recluse with a haunted stare that instantly sent chills through viewers. Social media exploded within minutes of Netflix dropping the promo posters, with thousands of comments pouring in about just how unrecognizable Hunnam looked. Some fans admitted they had to do a double take, because the transformation was so extreme it didn't even feel like the same actor. His gaunt face, the eerie rural 1950s costume, and the vacant expression captured something almost too real. Many even compared it to Evan Peters' shocking makeover for Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, but argued that Hunnam's look was somehow even darker. For longtime fans of Hunnam, who remember him as the charming outlaw Jax Teller, this was a complete 180. On Sons of Anarchy, he was brooding, magnetic, and effortlessly cool. Now, he's embodying a man who lived in shadows, hiding some of the most disturbing secrets in American crime history. That contrast alone is fueling endless debate online. Could this be the role that redefines his career, or will it be too unsettling for some viewers to handle? People are already calling it his most disturbing role ever, with one fan on Reddit writing that just seeing the poster made them uncomfortable in a way that Dahmer didn't. Another viral tweet joked that Charlie Hunnam went from biker king to the face of every horror movie nightmare overnight. The buzz is undeniable, and the haunting imagery has set the tone for what's being described as the most harrowing season of Monster yet. But this is just the beginning. Because behind the haunting first look lies a story even darker than the pictures reveal. Ed Gein might not be as instantly recognizable a name as Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy, but in the 1950s, he became the living embodiment of small-town horror. On the surface, he was just a quiet, awkward man living alone on a decaying farm in Plainfield, Wisconsin. Neighbors described him as shy and even helpful at times, the kind of person you wouldn't immediately suspect of hiding anything sinister. But behind closed doors, Gein was constructing a house of horrors that would shock the world. In 1957, police entered his farmhouse and uncovered something straight out of a nightmare. Human bones scattered around the property. Household items fashioned from body parts. Even masks and clothing stitched together from the remains of women he had dug up from nearby cemeteries. Investigators realized that Gein wasn't just a murderer, he was also a grave robber who blurred the line between the living and the dead in ways that still unsettle people today. The discovery was so grotesque that reporters at the time struggled to put it into words. It wasn't just the violence, it was the disturbing creativity behind what he built from those remains. That twisted imagination would go on to echo through decades of pop culture. Alfred Hitchcock pulled directly from Gein's obsession with his mother when crafting Psycho's Norman Bates. Tobe Hooper modeled the skin-wearing Leatherface of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Gein's grim handiwork. And the Silence of the Lambs Buffalo Bill, well, his horrifying suit was lifted straight from Gein's real-life crimes. In other words, Ed Gein didn't just terrify Wisconsin, he gave birth to modern horror itself. Every time you've sat through a slasher film or felt unsettled by a horror villain obsessed with skin and death, you've been feeling the shadow of Ed Gein. But what most people don't realize is just how much of Hollywood's nightmares trace back to him. Ryan Murphy has never shied away from controversy. From American Horror Story to Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, he's built a reputation for taking the darkest corners of history and turning them into cultural events. So when Netflix announced that the third season of Monster would center on Ed Gein, the reaction was a mix of shock, dread, and curiosity. Why Gein? And why now? The answer lies in timing. True crime has exploded in recent years, and streaming platforms are in a race to deliver the next must-watch series. Dahmer dominated the charts and became one of Netflix's biggest hits ever, sparking global debates about whether the show was shining a light on important stories or exploiting tragedy for entertainment. Season 2, focused on the Menendez brothers, pushed those conversations even further. By the time Season 3 rolled around, Murphy and Netflix knew they had to raise the stakes. And what better way than going straight to the man whose crimes shaped the DNA of horror itself? There's also something eerily fitting about revisiting Gein's story in today's cultural climate. Audiences are more fascinated than ever with the origins of horror,
the psychology of obsession, and the blurred lines between fact and fiction.
Murphy isn't just telling Gein's story, he's connecting it to the larger legacy of how one man's depravity influenced Hollywood for decades.
Netflix knows that curiosity alone will pull in millions of viewers, especially when combined with a star like Charlie Hunnam stepping into the role. Still, the choice hasn't come without whispers of controversy. Some critics are already asking whether Murphy is glamorizing killers or exploiting their victims. But Murphy has a pattern: every time people doubt him, his shows dominate streaming charts. With Gein, he may have found the perfect storm: history, horror, controversy, and an actor willing to completely reinvent himself. And that's where the cast comes in, because Murphy isn't just relying on Hunnam's chilling transformation. He's assembled a lineup of powerhouse actors to bring this twisted story to life. Ryan Murphy has always known that casting is half the battle when it comes to telling stories this dark.
And for Monster, the Ed Gein story, he didn't hold back.
Leading the charge alongside Charlie Hunnam is none other than four-time Emmy winner Laurie Metcalf, stepping into the role of Augusta Gein, Edie's domineering mother. For anyone familiar with the real story, Augusta wasn't just a background character, she was the driving force behind her son's warped psychology. Described as fanatically religious and controlling, she shaped Ed's world so completely that even years after her death, he was still under her shadow.
With Metcalf's talent, Augusta is likely to become one of the most unsettling characters in the entire series. Then there's Tom Hollander, who fans may recognize from Feud, Capote vs. The Swans. He joins the cast in another pivotal role, adding gravitas and a sharp edge to the story. Susanna Sun from The Idol also appears, adding an unpredictable spark to the ensemble. And that's just scratching the surface. Murphy has stacked the cast with names like Vicky Krieps, Olivia Williams, Leslie Manville, Joey Pollery, and Robin Weigert, each bringing their own weight to a tale that's already heavy with dread. But what really has fans buzzing are the whispers about how deep this season will go into Gein's psychology. Unlike previous adaptations that painted him as a simple boogeyman, Murphy's series hints at a layered exploration of his obsession with his mother, his loneliness, and his descent into madness. This isn't just about shocking visuals, it's about pulling viewers into the terrifying spiral that created the man who inspired generations of horror villains. Netflix has even teased that hidden clues are sprinkled throughout the show's promo art and early footage, nodding to Gein's twisted legacy.
From the farmhouse imagery to haunting glimpses of his tools, fans are already dissecting every frame for deeper meaning. If history is any indication, these details will keep online forums buzzing long before the series even drops. But casting and visuals are only part of the story. To understand why this series is striking such a chord, you have to look at the horror legacy Ed Gein left behind, a legacy that Hollywood has been feeding on for decades. If you've ever felt your skin crawl watching a horror movie, there's a good chance you were really watching echoes of Ed Gein. His crimes in the 1950s were so grotesque that they didn't just horrify the small Wisconsin town where they happened, they rewired the imagination of Hollywood itself. Take Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Norman Bates, the lonely motel owner obsessed with his mother, is practically a carbon copy of Gein's twisted devotion to Augusta. Hitchcock may never have shown the true brutality of Gein's crimes, but the psychology, the suffocating mother-son relationship, came straight from reality. Then came Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Leatherface, with his mask made of human skin and his grim farmhouse of horrors, was Gein through and through. Even the shocking dinner scene, one of the most iconic in horror history, feels like it was ripped from newspaper headlines of the 1950s. And who could forget the Silence of the Lambs? Buffalo Bill, the killer who skinned his victims to wear them, was yet another creation born out of Gein's grotesque legacy. Three of the most terrifying characters in cinema history, Bates, Leatherface, Buffalo Bill, all trace back to one man. What makes this even more unsettling is how Gein's story continues to inspire pop culture decades later. From documentaries to TV dramas, musicians to macabre Halloween costumes, the shadow of Ed Gein has never really left us. His crimes became the foundation of modern horror, a blueprint for how to terrify audiences with something more real, more raw, and more psychologically disturbing than any monster or ghost. And that's exactly why Ryan Murphy's new series feels so powerful. It isn't inventing a new villain, it's dragging the original nightmare back into the spotlight, reminding us all that some of the darkest stories don't come from Hollywood writers. They come from real life. But here is the question fans can't stop asking:
can Netflix handle a story this disturbing without crossing the line? And will audiences be able to stomach it when it finally drops? Netflix has never been afraid of controversy, but Ed Gein may be their riskiest bet yet.
With the Dahmer series, the streaming giant struck gold, nearly 1 billion viewing hours in its first 2 months, making it one of the most watched shows in Netflix history.
But that success also unleashed a firestorm of backlash. Families of Dahmer's victims spoke out, accusing the show of reopening old wounds and turning their trauma into entertainment. Netflix faced petitions, angry op-eds, and social media campaigns demanding accountability. Now the question is, will history repeat itself? Or will it be worse this time? Ed Gein isn't just another serial killer, he's a cultural bogeyman, a figure whose crimes blurred the line between true crime and myth. The very details of his murders, human skin masks, body parts repurposed into household items, are so grotesque that many fans are wondering, how far will Netflix go in showing them? Will they lean into shock value for views, or will Ryan Murphy pull back, keeping much of the horror implied rather than explicit? For Netflix, the gamble is clear. Audiences say they're disgusted by this kind of material, but they also can't stop watching it. The Dahmer series proved that outrage and viewership often go hand in hand. By choosing Gein, Netflix has almost guaranteed that the conversation around season 3 will be even louder, whether it's critics blasting them for glorifying a killer, or fans praising the boldness of telling the story at all. And then there's the competition factor. In a crowded streaming world, controversy is currency. Every angry tweet, every viral TikTok reaction, every debate on Reddit about whether Netflix has gone too far only drives more people to tune in. That's the gamble, balancing morality with ratings, sensitivity with spectacle. But one thing's for sure, when this series drops, it won't just be another Netflix release. It'll be a cultural flashpoint, the kind of show everyone is talking about, even if they swear they're not going to watch it. And at the center of it all? Charlie Hunnam, stepping into the skin of one of history's most disturbing figures. Which brings us to the final question fans are asking, is this the role that will change his career forever? For years, Charlie Hunnam has been chasing the role that would cement his place in Hollywood's top tier. After Sons of Anarchy made him a household name, many expected him to explode into leading man superstardom. But projects like King Arthur, Legend of the Sword and Pacific Rim, while ambitious, never fully delivered on that promise. Hunnam remained in that tricky space between cult favorite and A-list heavyweight. Now, everything could change. Playing Ed Gein isn't just another role, it's a career pivot. This is the kind of performance that can redefine how both audiences and Hollywood itself see an actor. Look at Evan Peters, his Emmy-winning turn as Jeffrey Dahmer transformed him from the American Horror Story guy into one of the most respected actors of his generation. If Hunnam delivers even half that level of intensity, the industry will have to start treating him differently. But it's not without risk. Some actors never escape the shadow of the monsters they portray. Will people still see Charlie as the rugged biker heartthrob Jax Teller, or will they only see the chilling face of Ed Gein? That tension, the possibility of both a breakthrough and a typecast, makes this role the boldest gamble of his career. What's undeniable is the buzz. Fans, critics, and even skeptics can't stop talking about the transformation. For an actor who's long been searching for a defining role, this could finally be the one. Because in Hollywood, it only takes one project, one performance, to change the narrative forever. And Charlie Hunnam as Ed Gein? That might just be it. At the end of the day, this series isn't just about Ed Gein. It's about us, the audience, and our never-ending fascination with the dark side of humanity. True crime and horror have become cultural fuel, and when you combine that with the spectacle of a Hollywood star undergoing a shocking transformation, it creates the kind of story people can't look away from. Charlie Hunnam stepping into Gein's skin is more than casting, it's a gamble, a challenge, and maybe even the role of a lifetime. Ryan Murphy knows how to tap into cultural obsession, and with Monster, the Ed Gein story, he may have found his most haunting subject yet. But the real question is, will Hunnam's Gein become Netflix's most terrifying monster yet?